All right, Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and elders of GMS who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect. My name is Aina. The title of this video is Trump's nuclear attack doomsday plane arrives in Washington. All right. And pretty much basically to get into this article, you know, I believe Trump is fearful of what's to come because he's being dragged into a war that he didn't want to be a part of, but because of the lobbyists, right, the JWOs, the banking elites, who have put him in a position to be the president of the United States and receive, all the gifts that come with that, he's forced to do their bidding, right? And these JWOs want a war with right now Iran for the purpose of pursuing their greater Israel right agenda, their 2030 agenda, and their world domination agendas, right, which is all vain thoughts and opinions, that they want to achieve because it can't be done. So anyway, let me grab that Jeremiah 50. Another Jeremiah 50 right there. All right, Jeremiah 15:45, it says, therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, that he hath taken against Babylon, right? Babylon is America, in his purposes that he hath proposed against the land of the Chaldeans. It says, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. So the least of the flock is talking about the JWOs, Israel, right? Israel is drawing out America to the great war over there in the Levant region, right, for World War III. Attacking Iran will spark what some are saying World War III. Now the scriptures speak of the third world coming, and that all these nations will be joined together in it, right? So that's what we're seeing happening now. Revelations 11:14, it says the second war is past, and behold, the third war coming quickly, right? So we have Trump preparing for that fact, that the scriptures said would happen. It says a U.S. Air Force Doomsday plane arrived at Joint Base Andrews Tuesday night, fueling speculations of a potential U.S. role in the escalating Israel-Iran crisis. Right, and once again, I just gave you the precept. This will take place. America will join Israel, in this battle, right, which will lead to World War III, which eventually will intensify to the point where Russia and their allies will shoot nuclear missiles on Babylon the Great in Israel, right, and destroy them completely. It says the E-4B Night Watch aircraft landed at the military facility in Suburban, Washington, D.C., as speculation grows over potential U.S. military action in Iran, right? And this is the time we're living in, right? This is being talked about. The potential of U.S. America joining Israel in the fight against Iran, right? The scriptures talk about the vision tarrying, but it will surely come, right? And that's in Habakkuk 2. And we are now in that time where, it's no longer tarrying, but it is here. And they're still kicking the can down the road. And this plane shows that too, in my opinion. Trump is getting ready for destruction. He wants to protect himself. So that's what this is. It's a plane that can withstand, nuclear destruction, so they say. It says the timing of the E-4B's deployment comes amid heightened tensions as President Donald Trump is reported to be inching closer to ordering military strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. While the White House hasn't commented on the aircraft's latest movements, social media users are speculating it signals potential military readiness from the United States, and I think so too. It says what to know: the E-4B Night Watch, dubbed the Doomsday plane, is a militarized Boeing 747. It serves as the National Airborne Operations Center and a key component of the National Military Command System for the president. It says the Secretary of Defense and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Right, so all the top guys up in there. It says in a national emergency or loss of ground command, the aircraft provides a highly survivable command, control, and communications center to direct U.S. forces, execute emergency war orders, and coordinate actions by civil authorities, the U.S. Air Force said. Right. So they parked this thing right next to Trump's Washington, D.C. Headquarters, just in case he needs to get in there because they're in fear of what might happen, because they're being dragged into this war. It's clear as day. People are still asking, is America going to go to the war? I mean, look at the moves being made. It says it was used during the September 11, 2001 attacks, right, which was done by Al Qaeda, right, which is something that America backs. America backs Al Qaeda. Al Qaeda now controls Syria, right? They did a regime change in Syria, just like they're trying to do a regime change in Iran. They might put more Al Qaeda individuals in charge over there. So this attack was done by Al Qaeda, who America backs, right? So anyway, it says the use of an call sign, right? So you can read that order 01 instead of the usual order 6. Use speculation, which I'm not in the military, so I don't know what you're talking about. All I know is that the plane went from over here to Washington, right? So it's getting closer to the president for potential reasons, and those reasons are clear as day. It says it's unclear whether its latest flight from Barksdale Air Force Base near Bossier City, Louisiana, to Joint Base Andrews was a routine operation or a precautionary move. But Newsweek previously reported that it's most likely no more than a show of force. Well, if it is a routine operation, it's going to be there. It's going to be there for a while, just like those joint military operations they got going on the sea. They always say that, oh yeah, no, this is routine. We're bringing all this equipment over here. Let me see what they got a map right here. Let me see. We're bringing all this equipment over there. They were in the Philippines, the Philippine islands over there near Asia, Taiwan, and things like that. The mapping is working, right? So they got routine, joint, exercises over there near China, and they're bringing all type of, missiles and things over there that can shoot ships, and planes and whatnot. And they're saying, oh, it's just routine, but we see what's going on. There's tensions between China and Taiwan, and America has interest in Taiwan. So they're also butting heads, and they're bringing equipment there for a possibility of something attacking, right? So yeah, ain't nothing routine. And if it is routine, it's going to serve a purpose in the near future because we're in that time, right? We're in a time of war. So anyway, the E-4B Night Watch can remain airborne for extended periods, capable of refueling mid-air, protected against magnetic pulse attacks, and capable of surviving a nuclear blast, right? I mean, to be honest, I want to see that. I want to see this plane survive a nuclear blast. They should make all planes like that. Maybe they'll stop falling out of the sky. Anyway, it said the plane is equipped with advanced satellite communications, shielding technologies, and can accommodate more than 100 people. It says in case of a national emergency or destruction of ground command and control centers, the aircraft provides an highly, I read that, right? So it says multiple sources said Trump remains undecided about launching strikes amid doubts over whether American massive ordnance penetrator, the MOP, bombs could destroy Iran's deeply buried and heavily fortified Fordo nuclear plant near the city farm, right? It says, meanwhile, Israel and Iran are exchanging air and missile strikes, intensifying already severe regional tensions. Right. So basically, let me grab this. So hey, Trump is doing what he's doing, preparing for the worst, and that's what the scriptures say. This is Second Ezra chapter 15, verse 27. In the GNT, it says, terrible disasters have already come upon the world, and there is no escape. You have sinned against Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushua, and he will not rescue you. Then in the east, you will suddenly see a fearsome sight. If we're in America right now, we're in the West, right? What's happening over in the East? People are getting ready to go against Iran. Iran is in the East, and Iran is thinking about and telling America, yo, if you help Israel, we're gonna attack your bases also, and then eventually, pursuant to scripture, they're gonna attack America, right? And that's what I'm getting to right now. It says, then in the east you will suddenly see a fearsome sight. Arab armies with many chariots, right? It says it clearly here, because it's talking about Iran. It says Arab armies with many chariots will advance like dragons. As soon as they start out, the sound of their hissing will spread across the world and bring fear and trembling to everyone who hears it. Right, Trump right now is fear and trembling. Right, this is not something he planned to do himself. He came in saying he wants to bring peace. He wants to stop all war in 24 hours. Right, but Benjamin Netanyahu, not a Jew at all, said you're going to war. Right, remember when he gave him that golden pager and the regular pager after he had used those same pagers to blow up those devices, babies' faces, children's faces, mothers' faces, grandmothers' faces, right? Men, hardworking men, faces building up the country and whatnot. And they just explode them things, and giving to Trump as a message. I mean, I received it as a message. Why would you give it to Trump? So I'll read that again. 29 says, Arab armies with many chariots will advance like dragons. As soon as they start out, the sound of their hissing will spread across the world and bring fear and trembling to everyone who hears it. The Carmanians will come out of the forest in a fierce rage. This is talking about Iran, right? It says, come out of the forest in a fierce rage like wild boars advancing in full strength to attack the dragon. With their tusks, they will tear up a large part of Syria, right? It's talking about America. Iran will, along with Russia, attack America and destroy it. And also, America has a lot of bases over there, too, that will be destroyed. Iran says. It says, but the dragons will unite their forces, regain their former strength, and win the victory. They will turn and pursue the wild boars, who will be thrown into panic, beaten into silence, and forced to turn and run. It says the wild boars will be ambushed in Assyria, and one of them will be killed. This will bring fear and panic to their army and indecision to their kings. It said then suddenly clouds, terrible, angry storm clouds will cover the sky from one end to the other. Right. So now this is going into war because ultimately, what Russia is going to join Iran. Right. Russia is going to join in with Iran to come against America, Babylon the Great, in Israel. It says, then suddenly clouds, terrible, angry storm clouds, will cover the sky from one end to the other. They will collide head on and release their violence upon the earth. The blood of war will be as deep as a horse's belly. It says, or someone's thigh or a camel's knee. Everywhere on earth, people will tremble and fear at the horrible sight. Then great storm clouds will move in from the north and the south and from the west. But the winds from the east will prevail and push back those angry storm clouds that were about to bring destruction. Huge, powerful, angry storm clouds will arise and ruin the whole world and its people, right? And this is ultimately talking about Yahushua returning, because in the midst of these people, going to war, Yahushua is going to return. The scriptures say, "Who's this?" That comes from Basra with dyed garments, right? Coming from the east, Yahushua is going to be coming from the east. It says, but the winds from the east will prevail and push back those angry storm clouds that were about to bring destruction. Huge, powerful, angry storm clouds will arise and ruin the whole world and its people. A terrible storm of fire, hail, and flashing swords will come sweeping down on those who have power and authority. Every river will overflow into the fields and the floods. And the floods will demolish cities, walls, mountains, hills, forests, and crops. It says destruction will press on until it reaches Babylon and engulfs it in a raging storm of ruin. The dust and the smoke will form a great cloud reaching to the sky, and all the neighboring cities will mourn for Babylon. It explains a lot there, but it explains pretty much everything that's going to take place. Iran and Israel and America going at it. Of course, Russia joining into the battle to protect their ally Iran. And then in the midst of that, World War III is happening. And then in the midst of that, Yahushua returns, to finish them off the job. And I'll grab 2nd Ezra chapter 13. So 2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 1, it says, and it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heavens. He's talking about Yahushua. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth filleth when it filleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. Right, so this is talking about Yahushua. And at the same time, he's coming during the time of World War III, when all the nations are gathered over there, you know, in the Levant region. Let me grab this real quick. That's what's going to happen. All right. Joel 3:1, it says, "For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem," so us coming back together, pursuant to Ezekiel 37, the tribes waking up, we have the stick together, which is the 12 tribe chart, and we're coming together. So that's what's happening in verse 1. Verse 2, it says, "I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat," right, which is the Lord judgment, which is over there in the Middle East, in the Levant region, where all of that is taking place. Iran, Israel, Russia is soon to join in, helping Iran, and ultimately attacking um, Israel and America and destroying them. It says, "And will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and part of my land." See, so in the midst of all of this, Yahweh Shai is going to return. And then ultimately, Yahweh Shai is going to finish the job of destroying, the armies over there. Right. So at the same, all of this is going to be taking place while the missiles, and it's going to be sent off. Let me grab that Job scripture say, roughly paraphrasing, "He shall save you out of 6 troubles, yet and 7 no harm shall touch you." Roughly paraphrasing the scripture, but the 7 is talking about the nuclear missiles being shot. So verse 5, 2 Ezra chapter 13, verse 5, it says, "And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the 4 winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew upon it." Right. So Yahushua is coming with a fathership, a gigantic ship, what you would call a spaceship. Right. And that's you can grab Matthew 24:30. So the glorious return. Matthew 24:29 says, "Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened." Why? Because of the missiles, the smoke. It says, "And the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken." Right? The stars are talking about the missiles, and the earth will shaken. Isaiah 24, "Go to the earth shall roll to and fro like a drunkard." Matthew 24:30, it says, "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the 4 winds, from one end of heaven to the other." Right? So they're going to come with those chariots and gather us up. So verse 7 says, 2 Ezra chapter 13, verse 7, it says, "But I will have seen the region or place where out the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight." So those nations and people that's fighting over there in World War III, they're going to be afraid when they see Yahushua return in all that glory, but they're still going to fight. It says, "And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which were prepared to fight, and burnt them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid." Right. So there's a vision from Esdras, of course. He's seen a vision, but Yahushua destroyed them completely, over there, pretty much in that war. So I want to grab a little bit more these precepts I had. This is Jeremiah 50 and 41. It says, "Behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coast of the earth." Right. This is talking about Russia, ultimately, because Russia is going to spearhead this thing. Matter of fact, let me grab a little bit of that. Russia's going to spearhead this thing by, helping Iran and the many nations surrounded by it. This is Ezekiel 38:1. It says, "In the word of the Lord Yahweh, Bashim Yahushua came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him." Right, so this is talking about Russia. Gog is Russia. It says, "And say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Bashim Yahushua, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them cloaked with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shield, all of them handling swords," right? So a great military force. The Most High said he's going to turn Russia back because basically they fell off. Pretty much all nations fell off. That's why the scriptures say in Joel 3:9, "Let the weak say, I am strong." Because America has been a great power for a long time, but now the Most High is stirring up Russia in these last days. You know, it goes on to say, Ezekiel 38:5 says Persia, which is Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, which goes to the African continent. Those people. It says Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them. All of them with shield and helmet. So them also handling their weapons. It says Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togomar, right, which went into Turkey and Germany. In the house of Togomor of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. It says, "Be thou prepared and prepare thyself, thou and all thy company that assemble unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them." See, so Russia is a guard unto many nations, and they're going to go against Israel, right, because of what's happening uh, in these last days. So this is Jeremiah 50:41. It says, "Behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up in the coasts of the earth. They shall hold the bow and the lance. They are cruel and will not show mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, every one put in array like a man to the battle against the older of Babylon." So ultimately, this is talking about Russia coming against Babylon the Great, and ultimately what? Shooting those nuclear missiles right on Babylon the Great. It says, "The king of Babylon hath heard the report of them, his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and pains as a woman in travail." See? So, basically, the thought of the armies rising up against America, right? That Trump is now preparing his nuclear bunker plan, and also he's also worried about the fact that Yahweh Shai is about to come down and swoop down on him also, right? Because like I said, all these things are going to be taking place at the same time. That's why they have something called the Space Force. Said, "Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan unto the habitation of the strong, but I will make them suddenly run away from her. And who is a chosen man that I may appoint over her? For who is like me, and who will appoint me the time? And who is that shepherd that will stand before me? Therefore, hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh, Bashim Shai, that he hath taken against Babylon and his purposes." Right. So basically, it's Yahweh Shai. It says, "Therefore, hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh, that he have taken against Babylon and his purposes that he have proposed against the land of the Chaldeans. It says, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them." It says, "At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among nations." Right. And we understand that Russia, Iran, and the rest of them are going to be the individuals to do that. Right. But the point I wanted was, the king of Babylon is heard a report of them, and his hands wax feeble. And pursuant to Isaiah 19, Trump is that cruel lord, that king of Babylon. And I believe it was Isaiah 14. Let me see, Isaiah 14 and 4. Isaiah 14:4 says that thou shalt take up his poverty against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased. This is talking about America, and this king of Babylon is talking about Trump, right? And he's about to cease because we're at the end, right? The scriptures say the end has manifested itself, roughly paraphrasing the scriptures, but the end has manifest, right? So I got this other precept here. Jeremiah 51:27, it says, "Set ye up a standard in the land, blow the trumpet among the nations, prepare the nation against her, call together against her the kingdoms of Ariat, Minia, and Aspenaz, appoint a captain against her, cause the horses to come up, as the rough calipers, right? This going to Germany, Armenia, area, Turkey, I believe. Let me double check that real quick. Yeah, yeah. So Iraq is Turkey, Armenia, and Ashkenaz is Germany, right? So let me so they're gonna come against Babylon the Great, right? It said, prepare against her the nations with the king of the Medes. The king of the Medes is Babylon. Slovakia. The king of the Medes is Russia, right? It says, prepare against her the nations with the king of the Medes. I gave you Ezekiel 38. It said, the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion, right? So Russia is going to join with a lot of people as allies to come against Babylon the Great. It says, and the land shall tremble and sorrow, for every purpose of the Lord Yahweh shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon desolation without inhabitant. It says, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holes. This thing right here. Trump's trying to remain in this thing right here and hide out. It says, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holes. And if they could, all the soldiers are up in there, all of them, even though this is something they want. They're being dragged into this warrior. All of them gonna cram up in that thing. They say if it's 100, they're gonna try to fit more than. It says, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holes. Their might have failed. They became as women. They have burned her dwelling places. Her bars are broken. So ultimately, yeah, they're preparing for a reason, and that the reason is because they're going to be destroyed. Even going in here right here, look, it says in verse 31, one post shall run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to show the king of Babylon that his city is taken at one end. Right, so one end of Babylon is going to be destroyed. Right, even Elder Patar says a lot because missile is quick. A nuclear missile can destroy a lot in a long period of time, but Yahweh Shai saying 1 hour, that city is going to be nothing. So they might attack, California or Florida or, New York or whatever part first. And then the messenger going to be like, yo, listen, California is gone, It says one post shall run to meet another. Hey, Texas could be out of there. It says one post shall run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to show the king of Babylon that his city is taken at one end. And you might hit Chicago. It says, and that the passages are stopped, and the reeds they have burnt with fire, and the men of war are frightened. What is that going into? Isaiah 95, fire. What is that fire? Those are nuclear missiles. Isaiah 95, it says, for every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments robed in blood. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. So this word is coming, it's going to be with burning and fuel of fire. All right, yeah, so that's matter of fact, let me give you a little bit of this. Last verse, Jeremiah 51 and 33. 51 and 33, it says, for thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, the power of Israel, the daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor. It is time to thresh her, yet a little while, and the time of her harvest shall come. See, so Babylon is through. Obviously, Trump knows something we don't. That's why he's preparing. Got his plane landing right next to his house. That's why they're making bunkers and all of that. So, Lord willing, you edify from lesson. I'll say shalom to those elect, which consists of men, women, and children. Shalom.